Not only did they shoot at the car, they called 30.
Charleston White says he got shot at in Houston's 5th Ward after 30 people pulled up on him. Now, footage from that night is going viral, but it doesn't show a single bullet. Did someone really try to kill him, or is the whole thing staged? Let's get into it. 3 hours in the 5th Ward. On the night of July 21st, 2006, a single sentence started moving across the internet faster than anybody could check it. It was short, it was blunt, and it carried the kind of weight that makes people stop scrolling mid-swipe. The sentence said that Charleston White had been shot at in Houston, Texas, and that as of that moment, he appeared to be okay. That was it. That was the whole post. No video attached to it. No body cam angle. No shaky phone clip of muzzle flashes in the dark. Just a still photograph of a man in a black hoodie with blue accents, a gold chain, a cap, staring straight into the camera lens like he already knew something was coming. The post cleared 1 million views in what felt like minutes, and here's where the story gets strange before it even properly begins. The word that spread across every timeline that night was footage. Everyone was asking for the footage. Everyone claimed to have seen the footage. Within an hour, dozens of accounts were reposting what they insisted was the moment it happened. But the thing people were actually watching was not a shooting at all. It was a man in a room, pacing. Let us slow this down, because the sequence matters. According to the earliest reporting that circulated that evening, Charleston White was shot at in Houston's 5th Ward neighborhood moments before the post went up. Commentators picked it up almost immediately and read the wire copy out loud to their audiences.
So look, Say Cheese posted like an hour or two ago and say, Charleston White was just shot at in Houston, Texas, 5th Ward neighborhood moments ago.
The details that followed in those first bulletins were specific in a way that made them stick. He had not just wandered into the neighborhood for 5 minutes. He had been there, sitting, waiting, for hours.
He was there hanging out for 3 hours when some guy pulled up and asked him to apologize for some things he said in the past, but he wasn't injured.
3 hours, one demand, one refusal. That was the entire architecture of the story, and it was already fully formed before anybody had confirmed a single element of it. So what was he doing there in the first place? In his own account, delivered later that night, White explained that the trip had a completely ordinary reason attached to it. He was in the city, he decided to go out and enjoy himself, and the destination was a birthday celebration.
I'm in Houston, Texas, and I decided to go enjoy myself at Dr. Candace Matthews.
The location of that celebration is the part that turns a normal evening into a story with a fuse attached to it.
So I went to Dr. Candace Matthews' birthday party, and just so happened the birthday party was in 5th Ward, Texas. 5th Ward, part of Houston.
5th Ward is not a random dot on a map. It is a specific historic section of Houston, and in his telling, he understood exactly whose territory he was walking into and walked into it anyway. He was not confused about the geography. He was not lost. He states plainly that he arrived with full awareness of the symbolism.
Knowing that this is James Prince Rap-A-Lot in Mob Ties neighborhood, right?
And he did not arrive with a convoy. This is the detail he returns to over and over again in every version of the account, because it is the detail the entire performance depends on.
Mob Ties. So guess what I do? I go to their hood. I go to their neighborhood by myself. No mace.
No mace. He is emphatic about it, and he explains why the mace was missing, which is itself one of the odder wrinkles in the whole story. He says he tried to buy some on the way because he knew what he was heading into.
They wouldn't let me buy my mace. I went to Academy first to try to buy the mace, because I know I'm going to 5th Ward.
That is a man describing preparation for a confrontation he considered likely before he ever arrived. And in the very next breath, he says the quiet part out loud.
And I know there's gonna be a war.
So he stayed. And by his own count, he stayed a long time, deliberately, in full view, making himself as visible as a person can possibly make themselves in a neighborhood where he expected trouble.
I stayed for 3 hours, man. Just to show you, I really think I'm bad. I don't weigh nothing but 125 pounds, 5'8", 1 eye.
He describes the atmosphere of those 3 hours in almost cinematic terms. People noticing him, people documenting him, cars arriving.
I stayed in that bitch for 3 hours in 5th Ward, watching niggas take pictures, watching niggas pull up.
Then, according to him, the approach finally came. Not a shout, not a swing, a conversation. A man walked over and made a request, and the request was almost polite in its phrasing, which is somehow more unsettling than if it had not been.
Man, we just need you to go back and apologize.
And he says he did not refuse with a speech or a scene. He says he refused with a gesture, pat on the shoulder, and a brush off, the way you dismiss a salesman at a door.
That's why I pat you on the shoulder and say, get with me later. Damn near passing y'all to my assistant.
What allegedly happened after the refusal is the reason any of us are here. In his account, it was not one person, and it was not a quiet exit. He describes a crowd arriving and gunfire following.
Not only did they shoot at the car, they called 30 mob time. The niggas showed up 30 deep, and all they wanted to do was to plead with me to apologize to James Prince.
He was not hit, not grazed, not injured, not hospitalized. Every account of that night, including the ones openly hostile to him, agrees on that single point. He walked away. So where does that leave the footage that supposedly exists? The main viral video attached to the story is roughly 4 minutes and 47 seconds long, and it shows Charleston White himself indoors describing the incident. Large windows behind him with a city view, a black gaming chair, colorful art on the wall, track lighting overhead. He is on his feet the entire time, pacing, turning, gesturing, occasionally lunging toward the lens for emphasis, wearing a black graphic tee and a heavy chain. There is no gunfire in it. There is no scene, no aftermath, no shell casings, no running. There is a man in a room telling you what he says happened to him. That is the footage. That has always been the footage, which raises the obvious question. And it is the question that turns this from a crime story into something considerably weirder. If the confrontation was really about an apology, then what exactly was he supposed to be apologizing for? The apology they came for. The answer to that question does not live in July of 2026. It lives several years back in a feud that has been running quietly and then loudly for most of a decade. Charleston White is a Fort Worth native, an internet personality, a comedian, and a self-styled crime commentator. James Prince, better known as J. Prince, is the founder of Rap-A-Lot Records, a foundational figure in Southern hip-hop, and a man whose name carries enormous weight in Houston. He was raised in Fifth Ward. That fact alone should tell you why the location of the July 21st incident set the internet on fire before a single detail was verified. The feud between them has never really been about music. It has been about the question of who actually holds power in Texas, and whether the reputation surrounding Prince is earned influence or accumulated legend. White has spent years arguing publicly for the second interpretation, and he has never been subtle about it. The first genuine escalation arrived in February of 2023. White had a sold-out comedy show scheduled in Houston. It was canceled. He did not accept the cancellation quietly. He blamed J. Prince. He blamed the alleged mob ties network. He blamed the mayor's office, and he blamed the Houston Police Department directly, claiming that authorities had refused to provide security because of his ongoing criticism of Prince. In a rant that circulated widely at the time, he declared that it had been confirmed for him that James Prince runs Houston, said the police department was receiving calls, and mocked the department in language that was not remotely diplomatic. Then, more than a year later, in a May 2024 appearance on Hollywood Unlocked, he walked a considerable portion of it back. He rejected the idea that Prince runs Texas at all, argued that only outsiders believe that narrative and that people who actually live in Houston do not, and reposition real institutional power with the sheriff, the county judge, and the district attorney rather than with any music executive throughout. He kept describing himself as a street guy who was not intimidated. That contradiction is the engine of this entire feud. One year, the man runs the city. The next year, the idea that he runs anything is an out-of-town myth. And through all of it, Prince himself has stayed almost completely silent in public. There has never been a direct public response from him, and there's no public statement from him or his representatives acknowledging or denying involvement in what allegedly happened in July. The older commentary in circulation shows how far back the dismissals go. In clips dating to around 2022, White was already publicly questioning what the mob ties name actually meant and what it had ever done for anybody in his own city.
And J. Prince, for whatever reason, thought he wanted to mess with Charleston White, so they ended up pulling up on him and shooting at him.
That is the framing that dominated the first 24 hours of coverage. And notice how quickly commentators went from a report of gunfire to naming a suspect. Notice also that even the person delivering that framing immediately conceded. He did not know a basic fact about it.
Now, letting shots go off in broad daylight, peak stupidity. And I don't know if they shot at his car or in the air.
Hold on to that sentence, because it becomes extremely important later. What is not in dispute is what White did next. He did not go quiet. He did not go to a hospital, and he did not wait for a statement to be drafted. He went live.
Now, obviously, he's not going to stay quiet after this, so he went on Instagram Live and went on a full-blown rant.
The rant that followed is, depending on your view, either the most reckless thing he has ever done or the most calculated. He named names. He challenged J. Prince to a boxing match. He delivered a stretch of insults so personal that multiple commentators reacting to it refused to repeat what he had said. And he wrapped the whole thing in a thesis about himself, which is that his continued existence is the argument.
Saying anything about J. Prince and mob ties was around 2022. And this is what he says. And I'm assuming that what he said is the reason why he started getting back and forth with Jay Prince.
That is the actual point he is making. Not that he was attacked, that he survived the attack in a place where he had publicly declared he would be, having spent years insulting the person he says sent people after him. The near miss is not the tragedy in his telling. The near miss is the proof. Then came the announcement that reframed everything, and the one that has drawn the most scrutiny since.
I will be calling the FBI in the morning to file a report. Why? Because James Prince sent a representative.
He repeated that commitment in multiple versions of the stream, and each time he attached more to it, he said he intended to put the confrontation into federal documentation. He referenced information he claimed to possess about illegal gambling. He referenced the case involving the death of Takeoff. He said someone connected to Rap-A-Lot had contacted him directly and given him information. He also explained why he did not do that, and the explanation is one of the more human moments in an otherwise theatrical performance. He says that calling the police would have meant shutting down the entire event, and that the event belonged to somebody else. Now, if this script is holding your attention, take 1 second and hit that like button and subscribe, because breaking down stories where the footage and the facts do not match up is exactly what we do here. Before we get to whether any of this holds up, there is one more piece of context worth putting on the table, because it establishes that this is not a new posture for him. In a sit-down interview about carrying non-lethal protection, White described the internal logic that governs how he moves in public, and he was disarmingly honest about the fact that a character is involved.
Even though I'm playing this character, at times I get mad in this character, and I'm still human.
He also laid out a philosophy of confrontation that sounds almost like de-escalation training, right up until you remember he applied it by sitting in a neighborhood for 3 hours.
You can't control their approach to you, but you can control your response to them.
So the man is not a stranger to the sound. He is not a stranger to danger. And by every account, including his own, he has spent years engineering proximity to it. Which brings us to the part of this story that almost nobody wants to sit with, because the further you get from the night of July 21st, the thinner the evidence becomes, and a very uncomfortable possibility starts forming in the gap. The footage that isn't there. Here's the sentence that should have led every single report that night and did not lead any of them. No clear, widely verified video of the actual gunfire has been confirmed as authentic in the major reports, and police confirmation is not yet public, not disputed, not contested, simply absent. That absence did not stop the story, but it produced a second wave of coverage far less enthusiastic than the first, and the skeptics raised a point that is difficult to argue with. If somebody fires a weapon at a public figure in an American city, the machinery that follows is loud, immediate, and heavily documented.
Why they invest? And listen, if I get shot at right now, it's going to, and the police is involved, they pulling up, bro.
And the aftermath of that response leaves a paper trail that does not depend on anybody's word.
They not waiting. They not going to. They're coming to where the shots was fired. There's gonna be ballistics. They're gonna know what gun was shot.
So the obvious move was to go looking for that trail. One commentator did exactly that, live on stream, pulling up a public incident log for the area and scrolling through it in front of an audience.
I don't see nothing. I see crashes, bro. That's all I see is traffic and EMS, bro.
He kept scrolling. The result did not change.
I don't see nothing in Fifth Ward. I don't see nothing, bro.
A public incident feed is not a comprehensive police record, and its absence proves far less than the people citing it wanted it to prove. But it was enough to open a door, and a competing version of the night walked straight through it. That version came from somebody claiming local knowledge, and it is dramatically less cinematic than a hit squad.
My boy say, I'm telling you, he lying, bro. It's a publicity stunt. They had somebody drive down the block and shot in the air once.
One shot into the air from a moving car. That is the alternative account. And notably, a second commentator described what he says he saw in circulating footage in almost identical terms, arriving at it independently.
I just saw this footage of Charleston White talking shit, then burning out in the Benz, and then somebody let off a shot. One shot, they didn't even shoot at him.
That is a fundamentally different event than the one described in the viral posts. A single round discharged into the air near a crowd is dangerous, illegal, and stupid. It is not a hit squad. And the distance between those two descriptions is the entire distance between the story people shared and the story that may have actually occurred. The same commentator pressed further and asked a question that, weeks later, still does not have a clean public answer.
Kidding. But on a serious note, where were you located at? Were you at a gas station?
There is also the matter of attribution. Even if every physical detail is accurate, there is a substantial leap between people arriving to demand an apology and those people acting on instructions. Not one publicly circulated clip has anyone stating who sent them.
While he's disrespecting the mess out of James Prince, what proof is it that James Prince did this?
That is a fair question, and the same person answering it landed on the only honest position available.
Man, they just want to be a part of a cause. So what ends up happening, in my opinion, is something happened. Maybe, maybe not. But according to Charleston White, somebody did.
Skepticism about him is not arbitrary, and it does not come from nowhere. It comes from history. In January of 2026, only 6 months before Houston, false reports claimed White had been shot multiple times and was in critical condition in Texas. He debunked those reports himself personally and immediately pointing out that he does not even live in Fort Worth anymore. His manager confirmed he was fine. Those reports were hoaxes, which makes July the inversion. This time he did not deny anything. He amplified it. That reversal is not proof of dishonesty, but it is the most cited reason people hesitated. And then came the theory that has followed him through nearly every controversy of his career.
I'm not really hearing there's real validity. I think it's secondhand information, which he believes.
Which is that the chaos itself is the product. Even the person floating that theory refused to commit to it.
This could be Charleston White going, you know what? My last interview did this amount. I want to keep my money going.
To understand why almost nobody extended him the benefit of the doubt.
I don't know. I have no idea if this is real or not or anything. I can't confirm or deny.
Look at the road behind him. In December of 2023, White was attacked on stage at a comedy show in Crockett, Texas, after arguing with audience members about the 2020 NBA Finals. That one has video. In late October of 2025, wearing a bulletproof vest with the word police across the chest, he called grown men who cry at NBA YoungBoy concerts mentally impaired around the same Houston Toyota Center window. YoungBoy's crew reportedly revoked his backstage credentials. In February of 2026, a video of him putting a man in a wheelchair into a headlock at a Winston-Salem comedy show went viral, and he responded by insisting the entire thing had been staged for entertainment. In March, he claimed Young Thug and an entourage confronted and threatened him at a Miami event, after which he threatened legal action and federal involvement. He has been arrested on animal cruelty and aggravated assault charges. And the reputation that shadows all of it comes from his repeated comments about the late King Von, whom he called a demon and said he felt no sympathy for, followed by posting photographs with the man previously charged in Von's killing and writing open letters to Von's family. That is the ledger the internet consulted before deciding how to feel. And the verdict across comment sections on nearly every major platform was not sympathy. It was some version of consequences arriving on schedule. None of which erases the other side of the man. At 14, he was convicted of murder as a party to a robbery in Arlington, Texas, in which he did not fire the weapon. He served in the Texas Youth Commission system until he aged out at 21. He later wrote publicly that the juvenile justice system saved his life, studied criminal justice, and co-founded a youth outreach organization built around steering teenagers away from the path he took, a role he still lists publicly as founder of that effort. He said something in an interview that lands differently now than it did when he said it.
When I got off the internet and started traveling, doing comedy shows and interviews, I realized that's where all the hate is online, not in real life.
On July 21st in 5th Ward,
So I'm gonna just put cautionary tale on this. It could have happened. If it did,
that theory got tested in the least controlled environment imaginable, and we still do not know what it proved. What is confirmed is narrow.
He was in 5th Ward. I believe he was in 5th Ward. Hell yeah, he was in 5th Ward. He was trolling. He was trolling Jay Prince and them, bruh.
He was in 5th Ward. He was there for hours. Something occurred that produced the sound of a gunshot. He was not injured.
Charleston White, I'm gonna break it down because there's more people up in here. So look, Charleston White came out and salute to Charleston White. He's a legend. He know how to work the internet.
He went live and blamed a specific man who has said nothing. And the footage that made the entire planet talk about it contains no shooting at all. Everybody arguing about this agrees on one thing and one thing only, which is that whatever else happened, the man understood the assignment. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.